Today I want to talk to you about small scale fertilization for your garden. Now if you watch a lot of our videos, you know we use buried or subsurface drip tape on just about everything we grow. And having that drip tape there keeps things well watered, but it also makes it easier to feed those plants. And we do that with our fertilizer injector. We can inject fertilizer in there and feed those plants right at the roots where they need it. But there are some instances, even given the size of our gardens here, where we will fertilize by hand. We'll just mix some up and we'll pour it alongside the plants. And today I'm going to show you how to do that. One of the most frequently asked questions or comments we get is, why do we grow such a big garden here? I've got 10 plots. They're all about 1,000 square foot each, and that sums to about 1/4 acre of gardening. And yes, considering the average garden size, is a pretty decent sized garden. And the number one reason we grow such a big garden is for this channel. We want to help people grow their own food. Having this many plots allows us to show a lot of different techniques, also show a lot of different crops and stuff you can grow, rotation techniques, cover cropping, all that good stuff. So the number one reason we've always had such a big garden is just to be able to show you guys all the different things you can do and grow. Now yes, having such a big garden has spawned our little small scale market farming operation, but that was never the intention of having this big garden. It's always been to help people grow their own food. With that being said, in these big gardens here, or in these plots, we usually are fertilizing the entire plot at one time. We usually grow the same crop family, whether it be tomatoes or squash or pumpkins or corn. You know, we're growing all corn in one plot, all squash in one plot, because it makes our rotation easier. However, there are some instances where we don't want to fertilize the whole plot and we want to fertilize just one row there. This plot right here is a good example. I've got lots of different things planted in this plot here, and I've got these sunflowers behind me, these giant sunflowers that are a part of our little Sunflower Showdown 2020 competition that we have going on with a few other channels. And I don't want to fertilize this other stuff in this plot right now. I just want to fertilize these sunflowers. If we back up with the camera here a little bit, we can see we've got 3 rows of squash / zucchini right here, and those are looking pretty good, looking pretty healthy. I don't think I'm gonna fertilize those again for at least a little while. Cucumbers over here looking good. They don't seem to need any fertilizer right now. And a lot of this is just feel. You can look at your plants. They look green and healthy. You know, I'm gonna back off the fertilizer a little bit. Got our eggplant over there beside the squash. Don't really need to fertilize them. On the other side of the sunflowers, over here, you might can see we've got our sweet potatoes growing. Sweet potatoes certainly don't need a lot of fertilizer, so we're not gonna fertilize them either. So the only thing we wanna shoot some fertilizer to, or give some fertilizer to, are those sunflowers right there, because we're part of a competition here and we're trying to win this thing, and we need to make sure we feed them good. So as I mentioned before, these are our American giant hybrid sunflowers that we're growing as part of a competition we're calling Sunflower Showdown 2020. Doing this with a few other channels: Cog Hill Farms, Deep South Homestead, Adler Farms, The Naked Hog, and 4 Kids in a Farm. I think I got all those right. And I'll put some links below to their channels so you can see how those are growing. We transplanted these guys on top of drip tape. We got them spaced 1 foot apart. So we put a plant on top of every emitter, and it's amazing how fast these things are growing. They're growing at least a few inches a day. I'd say close to 2 to 3 feet a week. We've only had these things in the ground probably around a month or so. And let's see, I'm 6 foot tall. You can see they're almost 6 foot tall. So they're growing really, really fast. Now, a couple different strategies I've been using here. I talked about the drip. I'm watering them a lot. These things, they can take plenty of water. You see the leaves here, nice and healthy. We've injected some fertilizer a time or two when we were feeding the other stuff in this plot. We also put down some of our complete organic fertilizer before we planted to feed them. And another thing I've been doing is coming along here and cutting off, as these things grow, cutting off these lateral limbs. I'm going for height here. We're trying to grow the tallest sunflower. And I know from growing other crops like okra or just about anything else, if you cut off the lateral leaves, it's going to promote more vertical growth. So that's what we've been doing here. And I'll probably come in here and trim these off right here. These that have grown since I've trimmed it last time, I'll probably trim those off in the next week or so. So as they grow, I've just been coming in here and clipping off 3 or 4 of these limbs. The stalks on these things are absolutely huge, and they're nice and sturdy. That was one of the reasons we wanted to give them some complete fertilizer, because the phosphorus and potassium there are going to encourage good root development. And as tall as we expect these things to get, we want a nice root structure. So if we do get some winds in here, hopefully, you know, they'll stay standing. And it looks pretty promising here. Take that one off, with how big these stalks are here. If these stalks keep getting, you know, proportionately bigger as the plant grows taller, the stalks are going to be big enough to hold these things up. So everything's going good so far with these guys, but we're going to feed them one more time. We're going to push them to the limit so we can see how big a sunflower we can grow. But before we fertilize these guys, I've got some weeds popping up here just along this row where I can't really get close enough with my wheel hoe to cultivate. Some pigweed here and other stuff. And I don't want to fertilize these weeds, so I'm going to clean this up real quick, like with my little single tine cultivator here. And this is the perfect tool if you're cultivating on top of buried drip tape, because you use kind of the side of this curve here to weed, and you don't have to worry about getting into or nicking your drip tape. This is one of our most popular long-handled tools. Real simple tool, but really effective tool. And so I'm just going to come in here and just kind of comb the soil with the shank of this tool right around these plants right here, and kind of uproot those weeds so we can get this nice and cleaned up before we go in here and fertilize it. I got a little bit of that leaf debris there from where I trimmed those lateral limbs off, but we're just going to go in here and just clean this up real quick like, and then we'll be ready to fertilize. All right folks, so this is what we're working with. Real simple, real easy way to fertilize your garden on a small scale, whether you got raised beds or a container garden. So we got some of our 20-20-20 here. We got some of our micro boost. Got a little measuring cup here. We'll also use that to pour the fertilizer beside the plants. I've got a 5-gallon bucket. You can use a watering can. I'm just going to use the 5-gallon bucket because I'm doing a whole 40-foot row, and that's how much I want to mix up here. But if you're just doing a couple containers or pots, you can use a watering can or something smaller. And we got our water hose here. We can wet everything and mix everything up. So starting out with my 20-20-20, I'm gonna put about a cup in here. And we don't have to be super exact with this, because what we're doing here is a process called spoon feeding. And so we're just giving our plants a little bit at a time. It's a lot different than, you know, some of the farmers that put down a really hot granular fertilizer pre-plant and expect that to feed the plants throughout their entire life cycle. Here we're just giving them a little bit at a time every couple weeks, so we don't have to worry about burning them. So I don't get super exact with it, but about a cup or so. And I'm going to put that in my bucket here. And then I'm going to come in here with a cup of this Micro Boost, this micronutrient supplement. And like I said, I'm not going to get super exact with this either, but about a cup or so of that. And pour that in here. Then I'm going to just use my watering wand to get this all mixed up. And that 20-20-20 dissolves pretty easily, but I'll use my wand to kind of mix everything around, get everything nice and agitated here. And make sure everything's dissolved, make sure there's nothing, no sediment in the bottom of that bucket. And we'll just fill it all the way up. Mix it as we're filling it. And if you're going to be toting this bucket a long ways, you might not want to fill it all the way to the top. But I'm right here by the garden, so I'm going to go and fill it up. All right, there's our mixture right there. Now all we got to do is pour it to the plants. All right, all right, all right. I got my concoction right here. And I want to put this whole 5-gallon bucket of solution along this 40-foot row here. And it's hard to be exact to give each plant kind of the same amount of liquid, but we're just going to try to get it as close as we can. With these sunflowers, it's not going to really hurt anything if we give one more than the other. So I'll just take my little pitcher here, dip it in there, and you can see it's kind of got a little tinge of blue there from that 20-20-20, and then that micro boost kind of darkens it up a little bit. So we'll just come along here. We'll just pour a little bit, probably a couple cups or so, just alongside each one of these stalks right here. Now if you're doing this on something besides sunflowers, some plants with a lot of foliage that's close to the ground, you want to be careful and don't get this on the foliage, because on hot days like this it can burn it a little bit. So with these sunflowers it's real easy because I've trimmed everything up and I'm just around the stalk. Just be careful, you don't want to get it on the leaves too much. So we're just going to work our way along this row here and give each one of these sunflowers some nice little nutrients here. Now, I should have mentioned the rate if you're doing less than a 5-gallon bucket. So I put about a cup of 20-20-20 and about a cup of micro boost in that 5-gallon bucket. If you're just using a watering can or something smaller, I would say go with a tablespoon of 20-20-20 and a tablespoon of micro boost per gallon of water is a good measurement. Like I said, you ain't got to be super exact with this stuff because we are spoon feeding here and we don't have to worry about burning stuff when we're doing that. Another way to apply this, which may be even quicker than using this pitcher here, is to use a garden sprayer like a pump sprayer. And what you do is you just take the spray nozzle off the end of it there, so it's just shooting a continuous stream of water, mix up your solution in that tank, and you can kind of drizzle it alongside those plants. That works really well too. You would use the same kind of rates for that. So if you've got a 1-gallon pump sprayer, do a tablespoon of 20-20-20 and a tablespoon of micro boost. And you can do this with just about anything you grow in the vegetable garden. Now, I usually don't fertilize my sunflowers. I've got a big plot of sunflowers over there we planted with our garden seeder in a previous video, and I won't fertilize those at all. The only reason I'm really pushing these guys is because, you know, we're trying to grow the tallest sunflower here. But anything like squash, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, watermelons, just about anything you can think of in your garden, you can fertilize, you know, through an injector in the drip system like we do a lot of times, or just by this simple method I showed you today. And that spoon feeding with that water soluble fertilizer, man, just really makes them plants pop. You can come out here a day or two later and really see some quick results from that kind of feeding. So I hope you enjoyed that kind of simplified version of fertilization that we showed today. I've been wanting to do a video like this for a while. We've got a lot of viewers and customers who have much smaller gardens than what we have, maybe just a few containers, maybe just a few raised beds. So I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of show how you can still feed your plants effectively just on a much smaller scale without the drip tape and the fertilizer injector. And whether you have a small garden or a big garden, we're all here to help you grow your own food. That's what this channel is all about and will continue to be about for years to come. If you'd like to have one of these new Hoss Grow Your Own Food t-shirts, I'll put a link below so you can go check those out. I also put some links below to all the fertilizers, any of the products we talked about today in this video. If you enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also hit that bell notification button so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. And if you like this video, check out these other 2 videos right here. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you next time.